All right, peace everybody. This is Jnana Yoga. Last week we talked about Bhakti Yoga. This week is Jnana Yoga, or the Yoga of Knowledge. This obviously is a picture of the book written by Swami Vivekananda entitled Jnana Yoga. All right, Jnana Yoga is the path to union with God through the transmutation of the discriminative power of the intellect into the omniscient wisdom of the soul. So that's kind of a definition of Jnana Yoga. So remember, Karma Yoga was union with the divine through action. So using one's actions to unify with God. Then the second one was Bhakti Yoga, which is using love and devotion to unify with God, or yoga union. And this one is the union to God through the transmutation of the discriminative power of the intellect into the omniscient wisdom of the soul. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes jnana as understanding the difference between the body and the knower of the body, or the soul. All right. The purpose of Jnana Yoga is to achieve liberation by realizing our true nature, overcoming our ignorance, and transcending our limited selves that are usually sense-dependent, i.e. the five senses, and bound by karma. According to the Bhagavad Gita, the following are some of the developments that we experience when we practice Jnana Yoga. So knowledge through the study of scriptures, contemplation, intuition, service to God and teachers, divine grace, discussion, teaching, observation, and personal spiritual experience. Although any seeker of spiritual knowledge could be called a jnani, in particular, this refers to those who follow Jnana Yoga, or the path of jnana. The ultimate spiritual aim of a jnani is to realize and attain practical and experienced knowledge of the impersonal or formless aspect of God, or Brahman, or absolute truth. So a few things to unpack here. So either knowingly or unknowingly, us as a class have already been practicing Jnana Yoga. We just didn't call it out as such. So remember, we said Karma Yoga is the union with the divine through action. So the class, or learning about Karma Yoga, was Jnana Yoga, or knowledge, because we were using our knowledge and intellect to become more acquainted with the process of how we develop union with the divine through action. So we started with Jnana Yoga, and then we attained the knowledge of Karma Yoga. And the same with Bhakti Yoga, us learning about how we use our love and devotion to attain union through love and devotion was Jnana Yoga. So we have already been practicing it. So we say knowledge through the study of scriptures, contemplation, intuition. So all of that encompasses the classes that we have been having thus far. So we've already been practicing Jnana Yoga. And the second piece to unpack here is the ultimate aim of a jnani is to realize or attain practical and experienced knowledge of the impersonal or formless aspect of Brahman. And so remember, last week through love and devotion, we talked about the form aspect of God, and using that as a way to target or direct our love. And so now this is a attaining and experience knowledge of the impersonal or the formless aspect of God or Brahman. All right, can somebody read this one for me, please? And just do the best you can with the word, Jnana.
Scripture from all religions that God is omnipresent, that everyone and everything is divine, and that the reality of life lies beyond the senses. For most people, however, these are only concepts. Knowledge gained solely by reading or hearing may give rise to an attitude of, I already know it all, which feeds the ego and can be an obstacle in one's spiritual evolution. No amount of reading or information intake can equate to a direct experience of the self, which is why it is important to understand the difference between the wisdom of Jnana, which is connected to grace and factual information. Wisdom of experiential knowledge of the self brings surrender and devotion into one's life. Jnana is the highest knowledge. It's wisdom that discriminates between that which changes and doesn't change, that which is real, unreal, and real.
Perfect, thank you. The only thing you said wisdom of experiential knowledge, and this is wisdom for experiential knowledge of the self, which is pointing to that is the wisdom. So this particular slide is making a differentiation between just knowledge that's gained by reading or hearing and wisdom, which is experiential knowledge of the self. So one is book information, things that you study, things that you learn, et cetera, and the other one is knowledge that is directly experienced, which is two different things. Makes sense so far? Anybody have any questions or comments? All right, no questions or comments. Moving on. So I know during my series on the Eightfold Path, we touched on the parable of the Raft, but we never called it out directly. So can somebody take this one for me? This is a parable that the Buddha used to discuss his teaching, but is definitely applicable to the situation that we have at hand in Jnana Yoga.
Peace, instructor. I could take this one.
Peace. Cool.
The parable of the raft is probably one of the most famous parables taught by the Buddha. He compared his own teachings to a raft that could be used to cross the river, but should be discarded when one made it safely to the other shore. A man is trapped on one side of a fast-flowing river where he stands. There is a great danger and uncertainty. But on the other side of the river, there is safety. But there is no bridge or ferry for crossing. So the man gathers logs, leaves, twigs, and vines and is able to fashion a raft sturdy enough to carry him to the other shore. By lying on the craft and using his arms to paddle, he crosses the river to safety. The Buddha then asked the listeners a question. What would you think if the man, having crossed over the river, then said to himself, "Oh, this raft has served me so well, I should strap it onto my back and carry it over land now"? The monks replied that it would not be very sensible to cling to the raft in such a way. The Buddha continues, what if he lay the raft down gratefully, thinking that this raft has served him well, but is no longer of use, and can thus be laid down upon the shore? The monks replied that this would be the proper attitude. The Buddhas concluded by saying, so it is with my teachings, which are like a raft, and are for crossing over with, not for seizing hold of.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I included this parable because let's go back to the last slide where we said there is a direct distinction between knowledge gained solely by reading or hearing and wisdom, which is experiential knowledge. And so it is very difficult to go directly to experiential knowledge. And some people have, such as Ramana Maharishi, who basically had a near-death experience. And instead of fighting, he just went along with that experience, and he gained enlightenment through not fighting the death process. And so he experienced the other side and attained his awakening like that. Actually, as a high school student, he did that. But it's very difficult to go, or very challenging to go from, everyday layperson to experiential knowledge. And so you need the factual information or the knowledge gained by reading and hearing as the raft to get you to the experiential knowledge. So I definitely wanted to include both of those, because everything that we are talking about and have been talking about is not knowledge that feeds the ego. And when you have knowledge that feeds the ego, it becomes an obstacle in one's spiritual evolution. So this knowledge is the proverbial raft in the parable. And we don't want to take the raft and strap it on our backs and walk around and say, hey, look at this raft that, I used to get across shore. I made this, now it becomes the ego thing. So we use the raft and then we leave the raft. So that's why this parable was there. All right. So everybody good so far? Questions, comments, anything?
Yeah, I got one comment. That you said this to me, kind of like the parable when I was talking to you about my mother and how she was acting and how I was feeling about the situation, and it kind of relates, and it actually relates exactly. And you was like, well, wherever it is, you can't control it, so just leave it there and continue on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very true. Thank you. Anybody else? Questions, comments, anything? All right, moving on. So we've mentioned the word discrimination a few times. So now we want to add we're adding two vocabulary words to our journey towards Jnana. And we've already said the one using our intellect to as a tool for discrimination between the real and the unreal. And so that term is called viveka, which means discernment or discrimination. And the definition is, it is a deliberate and continuous intellectual effort to distinguish between the real and the unreal, the permanent and the temporary, and the self and not self. So viveka is one. And the other one is vairagya, and that is dispassion or detachment. So it is cultivating non-attachment or indifference towards temporal objects of worldly possession and the ego mind. And Swami Sivananda said, it is only when the mind is absolutely free from the attachment of all sorts that the true knowledge begins to dawn. And so if anybody was in the Eightfold Path class, the first class that we had in the Eightfold Path was called the Four Noble Truths. And inside of the Four Noble Truths, we learned that, number one, there is suffering or some type of, unhappiness or whatever you want to call it, things that don't feel good. So that's the first of the Four Noble Truths. And the second of the Four Noble Truths is that suffering is caused by attachment. And attachment falls into two categories. Either what we want, we're attached to what we want, or the attachment of what we don't want. And so this vairagya is detachment from those worldly possessions in the ego mind. So when we are free from those attachments, aka what we want and what we don't want, then that's when the true knowledge begins to come forth. And viveka is again discernment or discrimination. All right. Everybody good? Questions, comments, anything? All right. Can somebody read this one? Well, I got it. There's some stuff in here. So I want to call your attention to this picture right here. And these pictures are masks. And so, we call each other, we're deemed as persons, right? And us as persons, we have a persona, right? So let's dive deep into what those words actually mean and where it comes from. So directly from Latin, persona, meaning human being, person, personages, a part in a drama, assumed character, and originally a mask or a false face, such as those of wood or clay covering the whole head, worn by the actors in later Roman theater. So you can see these personas down here, or masks, right? And so the etymology dictionary offers that the general explanation of persona as related to the Latin personare, to sound through, meaning the mask as something spoken through and perhaps amplifying the voice. So this is actually huge. And one, we learned that persona, person, human being, comes from the Latin word for mask, right? Or false face. So when I looked at these masks and I noticed that, because I know it's a mask or a false face, what does my person communicate to other people? That was the first thought that came to my mind, because I look at these masks and they don't look too pleasant. And so I thought about, like, well, what is my, mask, persona in the world as it relates to other people? And the other important piece was this part, the Latin personare, which means to sound through. So meaning that the real person, quote unquote, is behind the false face, speaking through the mask. So anybody have any questions or comments on that thus far?
It kind of makes me think about how when we grow up, we get these things put on us that says, okay, pink is for girl, blue is for boy, go to school, graduate, get married, buy a house, buy a car. And like when I was trying to do all that stuff, when I was doing all that stuff, it's like it wasn't, I wasn't happy. So it was like I had a fake face on and pretending like, yeah, I got this job, or yeah, I graduated, but the whole time it was a pain in the butt because I didn't really want to go to school, and I was just doing it to prove something. I don't know, just to be what people say we're supposed to be.
Yeah, that's excellent takeaway. That's an excellent takeaway. We'll leave it there for now. Anybody else? Questions, comments? hopefully the silence means that we are, taking notes or, really contemplating what's being said.
I have a,
Active listening, sir. Active listening.
Perfect.
I have a comment, instructor.
Go ahead.
One part that spoke to me is where persona came from, like the mask as something spoken through and perhaps amplifying the voice. And it just really reinforced that everything that we have is to be used as a tool. So if the original meaning of it and the origin of it came from something that was used as a tool to amplify the voice, to amplify the real, and somehow we seem to have turned it into something that suppresses the voice and suppresses the real. And so I think about how sometimes when we find out that we misuse things, we try to rid ourselves of them or feel like they have this negative connotation with them, when really I just need to do a better job. I'll say I just need to do a better job of utilizing those things as a tool. So that's what really spoke to me. Like it's a tool, like all things that are granted to us.
Oh, yeah, that's an excellent takeaway. And definitely received. Excellent. Anybody else? Questions, comments?
Yeah, I gotta take away from that. It's a combination of a lot of things that you as an instructor goes. All of y'all have been saying. It's the culture, the way we've been trained, the different things that we've been raised to see other people do, and it's like everybody is in a mold. You got to have your own identity, and it's hard to find your own identity if you don't know who you are. And that's just the culture because they want everybody to be a perfect, like mold, and you should be like Kelly Clarkson, or you should be like, what I'm saying, Jay-Z or whatever. It's all for show, it's all for looks, but the inside be hurt because a lot of people don't feel that. You got women that never want to be with their husband, but they married, but they thinking about other things. You got children that didn't want to go to school for certain things, but they end up going to school because their mom or their daddy told them they need to be like this or go to this fraternity or what have you. It's a culture. It's like the amount of pressure on certain people to do everything, and most people be like they're not strong enough to go their own way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Hero.
Peace, instructor. Can you hear me?
Peace. Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello?
Yep, I can hear you. Hello, hello. As soon as you said that, you went out.
So I've been doing some research along parallel lines. Got it.
You say you did some research that paralleled this, and then we didn't hear anything after that.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead. You might have to just drop it in the chat.
I was in divinity. The mask is.
We heard the mask is divinity.
All right. Can you hear me?
No, it's still choppy. Just drop it in the chat if you could.
All right.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Never mind.
All right, drop it in the chat. All right. This is a video clip.
You wanted to know what the matrix is now, Trinity. Let's get out there and help people customize and save.
They got me. My bad.
feel a little weird. This is the construct. It's our loading program. We can load anything from clothing to equipment, weapons, training simulations, anything we need. Right now, we're inside a computer program. Is it really so hard to believe? Your clothes are different, the plugs in your arms and head are gone. Your hair has changed. Your appearance now is what we call residual self-image. It is the mental projection of your digital self. This isn't real. What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. This is the world that you know. The world as it was at the end of the 20th century.
All right, so that clip was from The Matrix. And this is basically a transcript of what was said. And, Neo said, have you ever, or Morpheus said, have you ever had a dream that seemed, have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you seemed so sure it was real? But if you were unable to wake up from that dream, how would you tell the difference between the dream world and the real world? Neo said, this can't be. And Morpheus said, be what? Be real? If real is what you can feel, smell, taste, and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by the brain. Anybody have any questions or comments about that? All right, moving on. So this is a scientist named David Hoffman, and he postulates that we don't see reality. And so the question here from his article in The Big Think, it said, do we or did we evolve to see reality as it is? And he says no, and he's a cognitive psychologist. Cognitive psychologist David Hoffman hypothesizes we evolved to experience a collective delusion and not objective reality. All right, can somebody read it for me? And this is a couple slides from the article.
He argues our perceptions don't contain the slightest approximation of reality. Rather, they evolve to feed us a collective delusion to improve our fitness. An organism that sees objective reality is always less fit than an organism of equal complexity that sees fitness payoffs. Seeing objective reality will make you extinct. Since humans aren't extinct, the simulation suggests we are an approximation of reality. We see an approximation of reality that shows us what we need to see, not how things really are. Hoffman likens this approximation to a desktop interface. When a novelist boots up their computer, they see an icon on their desktop that represents their novel. It's green, rectangular, and it sits on the screen, but the document has none of these qualities intrinsically. It's a complex string of ones and zeros that manifests as software running as an electric current through a circuit board. If writers had to manipulate binary to write a novel, or hunter-gatherers had to perceive physics to throw a spear, chances are both would have gone extinct a long time ago.
Thank you. And the most important sentence here is this one right here. Seeing objective reality will make you extinct. But the question that we should ask ourselves is, who is the you that would be extinct? All right, can somebody get this one for me? This is still David Hoffman from the article.
At this point, you are likely wondering, well then, what is reality? If my dog is only a data structure indicating a furry creature that enjoys fetch and hates bats, then what lies beneath that representation? For Hoffman, the answer is consciousness. When neuroscientists and philosophers developed theories of consciousness, they traditionally look at the brain. If Hoffman is correct, they can't completely understand consciousness via brain activity, because they are looking at an icon of a material organ that exists in space and time, not reality. Hoffman wants to start with the mathematical theory of consciousness as a baseline, looking at consciousness outside of matter and the space-time it may not inhabit. His theory further calls for a potentially infinite interaction of conscious agents, from the simple to the complex. In this formulation, consciousness may even exist beyond the organic world, all the way down to electrons and protons. I'm denying that there is such a thing in objective reality as an electron with a position. I'm saying that the very framework of space and time and matter and spin is the wrong framework. It's the wrong language to describe reality. Hoffman told journalist Robert Wright in an interview, I'm saying let's go all the way. It's consciousness and only consciousness all the way down.
Excellent, thank you. So both of those were very, very heavy and a whole lot to take out of there. So go back to this one first. So we said that seeing objective reality will make you distinct. And notice this, an organism that sees objective reality is always less fit than an organism of equal complexity that sees fitness payoffs. And so what is fit? Fit is your ability to survive and procreate. So those fitness payoffs are basically like when you go to eat an apple. So you eat the apple and then you get the carbohydrates and the sugars and et cetera, that now help build bone structure and help give you energy to move and run and jump and, you know, continue on. So that's a fitness payoff when you eat an apple. Yeah, so that was that. And then another piece was this too. The simulation suggests that we see an approximation of reality that shows us what we need to see and not how things really are. And so you can kind of think about it like this. So one thing that I thought about a while ago, probably like some years ago, but you know, I was pulling up to my house and my dog was in the door, and I was thinking like, you know, I see him, but what does he see when he sees me? And then it got me going down this rabbit hole because, you know, dogs' sense of smell is 10,000 times stronger than humans, but their eyesight is different than ours in that, Paul, funny, but their eyesight is different in that we see three primary colors, which is, you know, red, yellow, and blue, where, you know, our red, yellow, and blue. And so, but dogs, they see more blue, gray. They have more of a binary type of vision. Ours is red, yellow, and blue, and theirs is blue and yellow. So they can't see red, but their sense of smell is 10,000 times stronger than ours. So the way they quote unquote see reality is totally different than how we see reality based on the senses that we have. So then we can take a step back and and say, you know, how do blind people experience the world? How do deaf people experience the world? Or we can take it a step further to say, what if we had another sense outside of, you know, touch, taste, or touch, taste, hearing, smelling, and seeing? What if we had another sense? How would reality be then? And so we can kind of see now the malleability of what we call reality and what we, you know, how we interact and what we, you know, have agreed upon as reality. Anybody have questions or comments about any of that? I know it was probably a lot.
Yeah, I got one question. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. I had to mute somebody. Go ahead.
Yeah, I got one major question. If the difference of reflection and perception in every creature is the way you look at, or you able to look at, like, okay, see me through the eyes of a tree, or see me through the eyes of a dog, or see me through the eyes of how would a snake live, or blah blah blah. That would be crazy, because you have snakes and they can't really, you know what I'm saying, they feel heat, they feel vibration. Dogs, they can feel love, they can feel danger, they can feel atmosphere. I guess like eagles, they can see, you know, tuna in the water, even through murky water from so many feet. Their eyesight is so impervious. That to put your mindset in that way of thinking is amazing, because you basically can try to channel like different parts of yourself, and which is really hard, because like, say you want to focus on your hearing or your sense of smell like a dog. How would you do that? How could you see yourself or train yourself like that? The Shaolin monks do different things to train themselves in different ways, but it's amazing to watch it and to do it, like, and watch the animals the way they do, like the snakes and whatever, because they have like the crane or whatever the arts are. So they focus on these characteristics of this animal and create a martial arts fighting style like it, and it'd be crazy.
Yep. Well, you know, we have animal systems too, and we probably should be teaching those to y'all real soon. But yeah, thank you for that. Anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, cool. Moving on. Can somebody read this for me, please?
A man
I got it.
Okay, go ahead, sis.
Thank you. A man walks at night along a path. He sees a poisonous snake bearing his way and turns and runs in the opposite direction. As he returns along the same path in the morning, he finds a coiled rope on the ground. He realizes that the darkness, he mistook the coiled rope as a snake, and it dawns on him. In the dark, it is hard to see reality as it truly is. In the light of day, we see more clearly. Our perception of reality can be clouded by darkness, which is ignorance to reality. This ignorance sometimes manifests as rapid judgment or fear, and we react solely based on senses or emotions. I feel like that was just for me.
No, ma'am, that was all mine.
Yeah, and this parable, I got you right now, 1 second. But this parable is one of the most famous parables or most quoted parables in basically what we're studying right now is, you know, a mix between Buddhism and Advaita Vedanta, you know, which is all in that, you know, the Vedas are the foundation of Advaita Vedanta, and this particular you know, snake rope parable is one of the most famous parables. But go ahead right now.
I was gonna say that made me think of like those YouTube videos or videos I've seen on the internet where you blindfold someone and you put an object in a box and people get like really creeped out, and it's maybe like a banana or a teddy bear or anything, but because they can't see the box, they like really flip out 20 times larger than what a normal response would be. And then they open, you show them the box and be like, oh yeah, it was the flower or some grass or something. But just how our mind and our perceptions just create something instantly to like our biggest fear, or and how like a lot of people can do that in life in general. So that was an example where I've seen that parable just in videos or pranks or something, where people just really go to the extreme.
Oh yeah, exactly. Thank you. I appreciate that. And the instructor said hit it on the nose with fear, false evidence appearing real. And so, most of the time, our that judgment that we have, that rapid judgment, normally it doesn't serve us. So, why did his thought process automatically go to a snake? Why didn't he go to a string or some wire? Like, why was it, oh yeah, this thing is dangerous? Like, what is that? And the answer is it's preservation of the self, which is, I don't want to say evolved or devolved because it's not in that vein or in that context, but we'll just say it served our ancient ancestors to take the worst case scenario, because when we talk about those fitness payoffs and survival and all of that, the ancestors who mistook the rope for a snake outlived the ancestors who mistook the snake for a rope. And so you can see that you can see that that whole mechanism is just about survival. But again, we must ask, what is it that survives, and who is it that survives? All right, can somebody get this one for me?
One who is overpowered by ignorance mistakes a thing for what it is not. It is the absence of discrimination that causes one to mistake a snake for a rope, and great dangers overtake him when he seizes it through that wrong notion. It is the mistaking of transitory things as real that constitutes bondage. As you can see, the Maya, illusion, and fear is coming to us because of lack of discrimination and clarity.
Yep, so we can see how these concepts are coming back. Remember Vairagya and Viveka, lack of our discriminative abilities is what's causing that fear, that illusion, aka Maya. All right, and we, talked about Maya a little bit, but we'll get more into it. All right, so this next slide, this is probably one of my favorite parts, or the next two slides actually, are one of my, if not my favorite part of this whole presentation. So, we've been talking about the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Vedas, all of these ancient texts. So now we are going to introduce a new text called the Ashtavakra Gita. And so this is a conversation between a king, Janaka, and a sage called Ashtavakra. And I'm gonna put it in context for how powerful this text is. Let's look at this. Ashtavakra Gita, chapter 1. So this is how it opens up. Can somebody read this for me, please?
I get it. Okay. How? Gotta open my Zoom up. Okay. Junkita or Junkita, have it. I don't know what I'm saying.
Janaka.
Right?
Janaka.
What is it? Janaka.
Janaka.
Okay. All right.
You read Janaka and then somebody else read Ashtavakra, so it can be like a conversation.
Okay.
I'll
You
read
ask the
the
question.
other part.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Okay. How is the knowledge to be accurate? How is liberation
Acquired.
acquired? How is liberation to be attained? How is dispassion to be reached? Tell me this, sir.
If
So
you
go,
are
girl.
seeking liberation, my son, shun the objects of the senses like poison. Practice tolerance, sincerity, compassion, contentment, and truthfulness like nectar. You are neither earth, water, fire, air, or even ether. For liberation, know yourself as consisting of consciousness, the witness of these. If only you will remain resting in consciousness, seeing yourself as distinct from the body, then even now you will become happy, peaceful, and free from bonds. You do not belong to the Brahman or any other caste. You are not at any stage, nor are you anything that the eye can see. You are unattached and formless, the witness of everything. So be happy. Righteousness and unrighteousness, pleasure and pain are purely of the mind and no concern of yours. You are neither the doer nor the reaper of the consequences. So you are always free. You are the one witness of everything and are always totally free. The cause of your bondage is that you see the witness as something other than this. Since you have been bitten by the black snake of the self-opinion that I am the doer, drink the nectar of faith in the fact that I am not the doer and be happy. Burn down the forest of ignorance with the fire of understanding that I am the one pure awareness and be happy and free from distress. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully y'all got chills from reading that like I did, because, you know, that is like, it's the mic drop. And this is chapter 1. Like, this is how it opens. And so again, let's put this in context. This was written 400 to 500 years BCE. And this is saying the exact same thing that the scientist David Hoffman said today in 2021. Just to put that in context, exact same thing. For liberation, know yourself as consisting of consciousness, the witness of these. The same exact thing that David Hoffman said. And this is 400 to 500 years BCE, which is, you know, approximately almost 3,000 years ago. And they're saying the same thing that they just not saying today.
Instructor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
With number 8, the statement, I am not the doer, is that alleviating us from the Eightfold Path in a sense? I mean, or should we hone in on, like, hyper technically on the word I and what that is, what that means?
The latter.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely. Yep. Yeah, we getting there. So that's an excellent question. You're exactly right where I want you to be. That's the type of question that should directly come to everybody's mind right now. And the latter is where we going with this. All right, I'm gonna need 2 people for the next one too. or not just one person. This is a continuation of the same conversation. So if somebody can read this one.
I got you.
Thank you.
Your nature is as the one perfect, free.
Your real nature.
Oh, I'm sorry. Your real nature is as the one perfect, free, and actionless consciousness, the all-pervading witness, unattached to anything, desireless and at peace. It is from illusion that you seem to be involved in samsara. Meditate on yourself as motionless awareness, free from any dualism, giving up the mistaken idea that you are just a derivative consciousness or anything external or internal. You have long been trapped in the snare of identification with the body. Sever it with the knife of knowledge that I am awareness, and be happy, my son. You are really unbound and actionless, self-illuminating and spotless already. The cause of your bondage is that you are still resorting to stilling the mind. All of this is really filled by you and strung out in you. For what you consist of is pure awareness, so don't be small-minded. You are unconditioned and changeless, formless and immovable, unfathomable awareness and unperturbable. So hold on to nothing but consciousness. Unperturbable. So hold on to nothing but consciousness. Recognize that the apparent is unreal while the unmanifest is abiding. Through this initiation into truth, you will escape falling into unreality again. Okay, these last two blow my mind. You are unconditioned and changeless, formless and immovable, unfathomable awareness and unperturbable. So hold on to nothing but consciousness. Recognize that the apparent is unreal while the unmanifest is abiding. Through this initiation into truth, you will escape falling in.
All right. Anybody questions or comments about any of these or anything with the Ashtavakra Gita?
When does the doer become the witnesser or the person that is witnessing or the thing that we're witnessing? Like,
Excellent question. And you're right where you need to be. So you coming.
cool.
So while you unmuted, well, there you go. Read that one.
All right. Maya illusion. The delusory power inherent in the structure of creation by which the one appears as many. Paramahansa Yogananda wrote.
That was excellent. That was good. That was good. Paramahansa Yogananda.
All right, cool.
Good.
Nice.
The Sanskrit word Maya means the measure. It is the magical power in creation by which limitations and divisions are apparently present in the immeasurable and inseparable. Maya is nature herself, the phenomenal worlds ever in transitional flux as antithesis to divine immutability. Maya is the veil of transitoriness in nature, the ceaseless becoming of creation, the veil that each man must lift in order to see behind it, the creator. The changes immutable, eternal reality. The consciousness of the unenlightened person is blinded by four successive veils of Maya, delusion, which prevent him from perceiving truth or God. First is the atomic form, the world of gross material manifestation, wherein the one substance appears as innumerable objects. Two, space, whereby the idea of division is produced in the ever indivisible. Three, time, whereby the mind conceives of change in the ever unchangeable. And four, vibration, the universal creative force that becomes the creative vibration, the universal creative force that obscures our realization of the ever uncreated. Whew.
So hopefully this is paradigm shattering right here, because this is a very, very, very like ridiculously paradigm shifting statement that Maya is illusion or the delusory power inherent in the structure of creation. Maya illusion is nature herself. Maya is the veil of transitoriness, meaning things shifting from one to another, ceaseless becoming of creation. And it's the veil that must be lifted to see behind it the creator, the changeless, immutable, eternal reality. And the veils of Maya or illusion are what people constitute as reality. Atomic form and structure, space, time, and vibration. It's all Maya, illusion. So hopefully y'all just got chills again. Because if you ask anybody what reality is, they're going to say space, time, causation, and vibration. And all of that is illusion. So before we take questions and comments on this, y'all can take time to pick your brain off the floor. We're gonna go to another clip real fast that kind of speaks directly and exactly to what we just stated. So give me a second. So hopefully Limu don't get me again, but
electrical impulses. Every cell knows and talks to every other cell. They exchange 1,000 bits of information between them per second. Cells group together, forming a giant web of communication, which in turn forms matter. Cells get together, take on one form, deform, reform. Makes no difference, it's all the same. Humans consider themselves unique, so they've rooted their whole theory of existence on their uniqueness. One is their unit of measure, but it's not. All social systems we put into place are a mere sketch. 1 + 1 = 2. That's all we've learned. But 1 + 1 has never equaled 2. There are, in fact, no numbers and no letters. We've codified our existence to bring it down to human size, to make it comprehensible. We've created a scale so that we can forget its unfathomable scale.
But if humans are not the unit of measure, and the world isn't governed by mathematical laws, what governs all that?
Film a car speeding down a road. Speed up the image infinitely, and the car disappears. So what proof do we have of its existence? Time gives legitimacy to its existence. Time is the only true unit of measure. It gives proof to the existence of matter. Without time, we don't exist.
Time is your
all right. So now I'll take questions or comments.
Instructor Keith.
Yep.
I just want to say something right quick. I had a conversation with my son last night. And one of the things he said is that none of this is real. And another thing he said is that there's no such thing as infinity. So this just made me think of all of that. And it's like, I'm still putting it together, but for him to say that and then for me to hear this.
Sound like the universe trying to tell you, or sound like the universe is telling you something.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? Questions, comments?
Instructor,
What you just said.
I'd like to speak on this.
Go ahead.
So I was taught, well, I've in different traditions and different lineages, different aspects of Maya are approached kind of differently. So in this lineage, it's taught very like, it's kind of like the brain explodes, like, oh, all of this is illusion, nothing is real. And in other traditions, like a tantric yoga tradition, Maya is more of, rather than, okay, this is illusion and we won't know, like we can't tell what's illusion and what's not illusion because we're in it. There's something called Leela, which is the cosmic dance. And I love the idea of cosmic dance. To me, it really helped me embody and kind of welcome the idea of time and space, what's real, what's not real. Nobody knows what's real. It's that captivating idea that we are participants in the Maya, so that we are actually part of manifesting illusions to create this cosmic dance. And it is one part of, Leela is actually a sweetness of life, and in like a spark, like synchronicity could be part of Leela. So sometimes when Maya is taught, when I was initially taught Maya, it was really kind of a, like, okay, none of what you thought was real. And then over time I've learned it in layers, and I just wanted to throw that out there just to throw in another kind of approach to what Maya is, that we are participants in the illusion, so that it's not necessarily negative. It's just our dance, our play, our role, and so on. And it kind of goes along with everything you've already taught. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
For sure. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that is definitely a good way to look at it. And we are going to even go beyond that real soon. So that, you know, as we said, that is the proverbial raft again, to get us to what is reality, because we haven't discussed it yet. We only discussed illusion and using our discriminative faculties to differentiate or distinguish what's real and what's not, but we haven't got to reality yet. We're still in Maya or illusion. So that's excellent though. Excellent way to think about it. And again, you're right where you need to be. Somebody else had a question or a comment?
Yeah. It just emphasizes the fact that time is a tool, and like everything that exists and everything that we do is just based on how we either manage our time or how we perceive our time with our, you know, our feelings and emotions. So for that to be the cause of Maya is huge, you know, being that that's the only quote unquote real measurement, and for that to cause the illusion, that's huge.
Excellent. And you can also see how interconnected these things are, because the, you know, as we say, the gross material world is, you know, created from these building blocks that we talked about last week called subatomic particles. And those subatomic particles vibrate, which creates, you know, the material, the matter that moves through the medium of space-time. So we measure distances by units of time. So like, you know, for example, you know, miles per hour, like, you know, even though it's a speed, like, you know, we going a distance through space of 60 miles in a time of 1 hour. So you see how those four things are, even though they are separate pieces of the, you know, veil of illusion, aka reality, they are all interconnected at the same time. And so, even though it's 4 arms or 4 limbs of the same being. So it's like a leg, 2 legs, and 2 arms of the same being called Maya. So atomic form, space, time, and vibration. All right, and then this is what we just talked about with Lucy. So she said humans consider themselves unique, so they've rooted their whole theory of existence on their uniqueness. One is their unit of measure, but is not. All social systems we put into place are a mere sketch. 1 + 1 = 2. That's all we've learned. Going back to, what Teresa talked about, people teach you this stuff. Where did you get it? Where did you get your idea of reality? Somebody taught it to you, and we just perpetuated it. 1 + 1 = 2. That's all we've learned. But 1 + 1 has never equaled 2. There are, in fact, no numbers and no letters. We've codified our existence to bring it down to human size to make it comprehensible. We've created a scale so that we can forget its unfathomable scale. Time gives legitimacy to its existence. Time is the only true unit of measure. Time is the only true. It gives proof to our existence, or it gives proof to the existence of matter. Without time, we don't exist. All right, can somebody read this one for me? And
Instructor, before you go past that,
Yep.
I'm glad you went back to that because I think it was Emerson who stated that time creates the illusion, but that's not the case. Time allows us to perceive the illusion, gives us some tangibility to the illusion. That's
exactly. Perfect. Yeah, that's huge. And then, as you see, that's why I included this from Paramahansa Yogananda, because he is the only person that I've ever heard calling Maya the measurer. Normally, it's just translated as illusion, but to translate it as the measurer, it directly corresponds with what you just said, and it directly corresponds with what Lucy said, with time giving legitimacy to existence, right? Because we use it to measure things. Without quote unquote time, we, in quotations, don't exist. So that's excellent.
One piece that I feel led to share, and you've heard me say it many times, but the Spirit told me 15 years ago in my house all by myself, never hearing what you just shared with us. Time is that which proves God. So you heard me say it over and over again, but we need that tool in order to really get like she said, some sort of scalability on the unscalable to perceive just how divine the divine is. So that's a big deal. It's a big deal to me because I know for a fact it was the Spirit that taught me in my place all by myself things that it's taken over a decade to really get so-called empirical data to support.
Yeah, and that's excellent. Again, that is another raft to get us to, as you said, the divine. So time proves God. And because of that, we need time as the raft to get across the chasm to reach so-called God or the divine or whatever we want to put on that thing, the creator. But yeah, that's excellent. Go ahead, Topher.
Peace, everybody. Good evening, everyone.
Peace, peace.
Instructor Aku, I love what you just shared. Time is that which proves God. Instructor Keith, you taught me that what power is the time between when we say something and from our word and when our word manifests. And what that made, all that brought up for me was when I was in high school, and there was like an event after school that I was at, but then I forgot to go get my little brother from the middle school next door. And so I'm looking around the middle school, I'm looking around the high school, I can't find him. I'm like, where the hell is he? And I'm like, God, please help me. But then I I felt like asking for help wasn't going to work because it was too important for me, because I'm not about to go home to mom without my little brother. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to step out of this construct right quick. And I'm like, and at the time I didn't understand, being God. So it's like, all right, God, if you're real, I demand, bring me my little brother now, right now. And so then at that moment he had called and from someone's phone, and then he was right there. And it was like, wow, that was an experience for me. That let me know that, and for me, that proved God. So that proved God. That time proved that God was real for me. And so and then growing up, becoming an adult, understanding the connectedness of the universe, But at the time where I'm seeing God as separate from myself and everyone else, it proved that whatever God is real.
Man, yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Excellent,
Thank you.
excellent. Yeah, thank you. All right, we on a crunch for time, so can somebody read this one for me, please?
Maya is the mass hypnosis of God, by which he makes every human being believe in the same illusory reality of creation as perceived by the senses. Avidya gives individuality of form, experience, and expression. It supports the ego or I consciousness. Swami Shankara, you never identify yourself with the shadow cast by your body, or with its reflection, or with the body you see in a dream or in your imagination. Therefore, you should not identify yourself with this living body either.
Thank you, I
That's
appreciate that.
attachment.
Right. And avidya is ignorance.
Okay.
Yeah, so ignorance
Mhm.
gives the individuality of form, experience, and expression. It supports the ego or the I consciousness. And so remember, Jnana Yoga is the path from ignorance to knowledge. So this is saying that ignorance is what gives you individuality of form, experience, and expression. And Shankaracharya said that you don't identify yourself with a shadow or a reflection. So why would you identify yourself with the living body? And the question that we all should be asking is, what's the difference between the shadow, the body, and the reflection?
Wow.
We're not taking answers right now. Just contemplate that, and we're gonna move forward. Can somebody read this one for me, please?
Repeat the question you said. You said the question we all should be asking, and then your mic went silent.
I said the question that we all should be asking is, when Swami Shankaracharya said that we should not, or we never identify ourselves with the shadow or the reflection. In that same way, we shouldn't, or he said, we don't identify ourselves with the shadow, the reflection, or the body you see in a dream or in your imagination. Therefore, you should not identify yourself with this living body either. And so I'm saying the question that we all should be asking ourselves is, what's the difference between the shadow cast by your body, the reflection, the body in a dream, and the body in your imagination, and the body that you do identify with? That should be the question in everybody's mind as to what's the difference. Why do we identify with one, but we don't identify with the others? So that's just a rhetorical question, not a question for an answer at the moment. All right, can somebody get this for me, please?
Jnana Yoga is a process of learning to discriminate between what is real and what is not, what is eternal and what is not, through a steady advancement and realization of the distinction between real and the unreal, the eternal and the temporal. One develops into a yani. This is essentially a path of knowledge and discrimination in regards to the difference between the immortal soul, Atman, and the body. It is the process of converting intellectual knowledge into practical wisdom. Jnana literally means knowledge, but in the context of yoga, it means the process of meditative awareness, which leads to illuminative wisdom. It is not a method by which we try to find rational answers to eternal questions. Rather, it is a part of meditation leading to self-inquiry and self-realization. Before practicing Jnana yoga, the aspirant needs to have integrated the lessons of the other yogic paths, for without selflessness and the love of God, strength of the body and mind, the search for self-realization can become mere idle speculation. Taking the philosophy of Vedanta, the Jnana yoga uses his mind to inquire into its own nature. We perceive the space inside and outside of glass is different, just as we see ourselves as separate from God. Jnana yoga leads the devotee to experience his unity with God directly by breaking the glass, dissolving the veils of ignorance, Maya.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we can see, why we talked about the other yogic paths first. So, the lessons of selflessness, which is karma yoga, the love of God. And then we're going to get to the strength of the body and the mind, which, is asana practice inside of Raja Yoga. Thank you for that. All right. And this is out of the Kena Upanishad. And it says, that which can, so now we are moving towards, so we talked about Maya and illusion and everything that is illusion. So now we are moving towards reality. So that which cannot be expressed by speech, but by which speech is expressed, that alone know as Brahman, and not that which people here worship. That which cannot be apprehended by the mind, but by which they say the mind is apprehended, that alone know as Brahman, and not that by which people here worship. That which cannot be perceived by the eye, but by which the eye is perceived, that alone know as Brahman, not that which people here worship. That which cannot be heard by the ear, but by which the hearing is perceived, that alone know as Brahman. So this is out of the Kena Upanishad. And so now we are marching our way towards reality. So now you can see, again, the example that we gave last week with using the form of Brahman as a tool to direct our love and devotion. But now this is coming directly behind that and saying that which cannot be expressed by speech, that which cannot be apprehended by the mind, that which cannot be perceived by the eye, and that which cannot be heard by the ear, but which those things are perceived, that is Brahman, right? So what you can take away from that is that the thing that is being perceived is not the ultimate or the absolute. Hello, can you hear me? All right. Those things that you can perceive are not Brahman, but the thing perceiving is Brahman. So now we start to, make baby steps toward distinguishing what's real and what's not real, what's Maya and what's real. All right, can somebody read this one for me, please?
The existence of the self is self-evident and does not need any proof. But its real nature as the Atman is not self-evident. The pure Atman can never become the object of meditation. During the higher samadhi, when all thought waves are stilled, The pure Atman shines by itself. There is a method of penetrating straight into the pure self through inquiry, but this does not come under meditation. It is a direct path followed by those who practice Jnana yoga.
Excellent. So this one you can see. So stay unmuted for 1 second because I want to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say this part, all thought waves are still, what does that sound like to you?
Sounds like delta. Well, I guess it would be lower than delta because in delta you still have a 0.5 hertz.
It's something that we discussed in this class. What does that sound like?
Moksha?
Nope.
Oh, is this when is that when you all the senses go inward? The word for that?
Nope. Remember, chitta vritti nirodha, stealing the thought waves of the mind, aka yoga. Exactly. Sutra 1.2 from Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Chitta vritti nirodha, all the thought waves are stilled. And when we still those thought waves, then the pure Atman shines by itself. And what is the Atman? The Atman is the individual soul. So now we start to make that distinction between reality and illusion. All right, can somebody read this one for me? And this is from the Chandogya Upanishad.
The knower of truth does not see death or disease or sorrow. The knower of truth sees everything and obtains everything everywhere. He, the knower, is one before the creation, becomes 3, becomes 5, becomes 7, becomes 9. Then again, he is called 11, 110, and 1020.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's from the Chandogya Upanishad. And next, we're going to go into an allegory by Plato that really is going to bring all of this home. So, the knower of truth does not see death, disease, or sorrow. And, you know, as we talked about, seeing God everywhere, same exact thing. And the knower, the one before the creation, is what is the energy or whatever you want to call it that figuratively splits and becomes 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 100, 10, 1020. Like, you know, it's one thing that supposedly splits into everything. All right, so everybody take a quick deep breath because this is another thing that, you know, is really going to require some full attention, because this again is something that we need to be able to wrap our heads around. So let's take a proverbial deep breath and then we'll go right back in. All right, so this is Plato, and he came up with this, and it's called the Allegory of the Cave. And this is going to bring awareness to how we fall in the trap of Maya or illusion. So Plato realizes that the general run of humankind can think and speak, etc., so far without any awareness of his of his realm of forms. So let me read that one more time. Plato realizes that the general run of humankind can think and speak, etc., without, so far as they acknowledge, any awareness of his realm of forms, meaning that you don't need knowledge of reality, or quote unquote reality, meaning like, you know, the illusory reality of space, time, and causation. You don't necessarily need awareness to be able to think and speak and operate in quote unquote reality, the reality of space, time, and causation. So the allegory of the cave is supposed to explain this. In the allegory, Plato likens people untutored in the theory of forms to prisoners chained in a cave, unable to turn their heads. All they can see is the wall of the cave. Behind them burns a fire. Between the fire and the prisoners, there is a parapet along which puppeteers can walk. So this is like a walkway. The puppeteers who are behind the prisoners hold up puppets that cast shadows on the wall of the cave. And I'm gonna show a picture so you don't have to, picture all of this stuff. The prisoners are unable to see these puppets, the real objects that pass behind them. What the prisoners see and hear are shadows and echoes cast by objects that they do not see. Here is an illusion of Plato's cave, an illustration of Plato's cave. So you can see the prisoners and the people that walk past with the, forms and the fire that's burning behind it. And then all the prisoners see are the shadows, right? So that's where we are right now. So such prisoners would mistake appearance for reality. They would think that the things that they see on the wall, the shadows, were real. They would know nothing of the real causes of the shadows. All right. So when the prisoners talk, what are they talking about? If an object, let's say a book, is carried past behind them and it casts a shadow on the wall and the prisoner says, I see a book. What is he talking about? He thinks he is talking about a book, but he really is talking about a shadow. But he uses the word book, but he uses the word book. What does that refer to? Plato gives his answer at line 515b2. The text has puzzled many editors and it has been frequently amended. The translation in Grube Reed gets the point correctly. And if they could talk to one another, don't you think they suppose that the names they use apply to the things that they see passing before them? Plato's point is that the prisoners would be mistaken, for they would be taking the terms in their language to refer to the shadows that pass before their eyes, rather than, as is correct in Plato's view, to the real things that cast the shadows. If a prisoner says that's a book, he thinks that the word book refers to the very thing that he's looking at, but he will be wrong. He's only looking at a shadow. The real referent of the word book he cannot see. To see it, he would have to turn his head around. Plato's point, the general terms of our language are not names of the physical objects that we can see. They are actually names of the things that we cannot see, things that we can only grasp with the mind. When the prisoners are released, they can turn their heads to see the real object. Then they realize their error. What can we do that is analogous to turning our heads and seeing the causes of our shadows? We can come to grasp the forms with our mind. So that's this part right here. When they actually are, released, they can now see, so-called or quote unquote reality. So before they was just seeing shadows, thinking that they were referring to reality, but really they weren't. They weren't seeing reality. Plato's aim in the Republic is to describe what is necessary for us to achieve this reflective understanding. But even without it, it remains true that our very ability to think and speak depends on the forms. For the terms of the language we use to get their meaning by naming the forms that the objects we perceive participate in. The prisoners may learn what a book is by their experience with the shadows of books, but they would be mistaken if they thought the word book actually referred to something that any of them have ever seen. Likewise, we may acquire concepts by our perceptual experience of physical objects, but we would be mistaken if we thought the concepts that we grasp are on the same level as the things that we perceive. So all of that's saying a whole lot. And this picture kind of sums up what is being said. So this is our analysis of the educational process, so to speak. So normally, that which we call knowledge is broken down into 3 parts, which is the knower, the process of knowing, and then the known, right? So we use our senses, aka our eyes, which allow us to perceive what's quote unquote outside of us, and then the object is what's known. So if you look at a book, so to speak, you'll use the eyes to perceive the book, and then we get sensory knowledge or sight of the quote unquote object or the thing that's outside of our senses, right? So this is going all the way down using the knower is, what the reference is. So we use our senses, our mind, our intellect, and our feeling to make quote unquote sense of the quote unquote, again, outside world, right? But the process of Jnana Yoga is to collapse the knower, the process of knowing, and the known into one thing where there is no difference. So it's a unified state of the knower, the process of knowing, and the known, where they all collapse into one thing. Because in this, as we stated earlier, everything that's perceived is part of Maya or illusion. So that is where the question of when we say, who am I? What I are we referring to? And if that I can be an object of knowledge, then that's illusion. That's Maya, right? So let's take meditation, for example, because meditation, people it's different steps and processes of meditation. So, we say, all right, let's be mindful. Let's watch our thoughts. So if we watch our thoughts, we have a knower, a process of knowing, and the known, because the thoughts are the thoughts are our object of the meditation, right? Because we are watching our thoughts, we are being mindful. So again, that is Maya. So anything that is an object of our knowledge, we can call that Maya or illusion. And the real is that thing which perceives the objects of our knowledge. I know I said a lot, and hopefully y'all got that. Hopefully that makes sense. So can somebody read this for me? This is Paramahansa Yogananda again.
Paramahansa Yogananda said, self-realization is the knowing in body, mind, and soul that we are one with the omnipresence of God, that we do not have to pray that it comes to us, that we are not merely near it at all times, but that God's omnipresence is our omnipresence, that we are just as much a part of him now as we will ever be. All we have to do is improve our knowing. And the quote says, thou art I am thou, knowing, knower, known as one.
Yep, so hopefully that brought it all together, that the ignorance is that we think that there's something to get to. But this is saying that we are just as much a part of him or her or whatever you want to call the divine now as we will ever be. So that is the ignorance and the process of eliminating that ignorance and getting to the knowledge of that is Jnana Yoga, right? So all we have to do is improve our knowing. All right, somebody read this one for me real short, and you don't have to say the name. Unless you feel brave.
Those within whom the knowledge is not awakened are like dead bodies in the world. And that says Skiggs 88. And this is by Sri Guru Granth Sahib.
Good, good. Yeah, this SGGS, that's this right here. That's just
Okay.
his name.
Abbreviation.
Yep. And then we're gonna end it with Swami Vivekananda. So this what he said. Can somebody read it for me?
The
I'll read it.
realization.
Oh, go ahead.
Sis. No, sis, go ahead.
Okay. Jnana Yoga, the realization of a man's own divinity through knowledge. Whoever sees in every being that same Atman, and whoever sees everything in that Atman, he never goes far from that Atman. When all life and the whole universe are seen in this Atman, then alone man has attained the secret. There is no more delusion for him. Where is any more misery for him who sees the oneness in the universe?
Period. That's the mic drop right there. Swami Vivekananda. So, no ego, but I finished 37 slides before 10 o'clock. So I still got us out of here on time. So, with these next few minutes, let's entertain questions and comments, please.
Tonight's class was amazing. I feel like you should just do Russell Simmons. Thank you. God bless y'all. Good night. And just let us all go home. That was amazing. Like, absolutely amazing. And there was a part that you spoke about where you said that a part of you dies, but which part of it? And just having that actualization this morning of that was like, wow, that's amazing. I related the two. So tonight's class was absolutely amazing, from instruction to the energy from the classmates as well.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. And you know, it's funny, or not funny. I don't want to use the word funny because it's definitely not humorous or laughable, but it's ironic, let's say, that you and somebody else asked me about death or, you know, dying, the whole dying process. And my answer to y'all was come to the class, because now we see that it's impossible to die. Again, what dies? Ain't no such thing. Can't die. So everybody rest assured.
Yep.
All right. More questions, comments?
Instructor, thank you. This was excellent. Can't wait for the YouTube to drop so I can revisit. Very poignant information. As usual, dope, super dope, right up my alley. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I told you. I'm like,
Yeah,
I already knew you would appreciate it.
I normally watch them at least 2 times on the real.
Excellent. Anybody else? Questions, comments?
Yeah, Instructor, I got a question. What do you consider, or what do you feel like regressions are, or when these yogis decide to come back? Is it that they're so in tune with the cells or whatever the real reality is that they can build their physical vessel in what they want? And what do you think regressions are when people just come back and get trapped? Is it that they don't realize that they are omnipresent and they just are forced to come back?
So there's multiple answers to that, but the answer is it's still Maya, but the correct answer, or the answer that would come out of the Upanishads, would be that they have to come to work out karma, right? Because you know, with living these multiple incarnations and everything like that, you accumulate karma. And so if you know, die without being self-realized, then you got to come back and work out that karma. So that's one. or like somebody like a Paramahansa Yogananda, you know, in his book, The Autobiography of a Yogi, listen to what he said. He said that he only incarnated as a human being to show what's possible. So he came back as a demonstration to say, you know, this is the heights that we can attain to or achieve to as quote unquote human beings. So that was his reasoning for coming back, just as an example or a demonstration. So that's another answer. So, you know, several answers.
Instructor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So your enthusiasm on this particular yoga seems like it's heightened. So if my perception is right, can you just kind of give in like one paragraph why it is that this particular Jnana yoga was so compelling for you?
Short answer, because I'm a Gemini. So no, this is my
said. I get it. I got that.
This is my favorite one. Yep, this is my
Okay.
favorite one. So
Wait a minute, hold up now. I'm a Gemini too. And the instructor said, hold on now.
It says it all about all y'all.
Excellent. Yeah.
What was the word you used? Because you're a what instructor?
Huh? A Gemini. Gemini.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Topher.
Peace. In the last comment, when we're talking about a yogi going from one place and coming back here as a human, where is that yogi going and where are they coming to exactly?
They're going from the unmanifested to the manifested.
Okay, understandable. Now, how big is the difference between them? Or would you say they're just two complements to each other, like night and day, or that there's like a space in between them?
So what it is it is the so it's one end of the spectrum and another end of the spectrum. So it's all one thing, but it's just one end or the other end. But again, it's all the same one unified thing. So it's again Maya to say that duality exists because, you know, we think in terms to put the unfathomable scale down to you know, things that we can comprehend, but where does cold end and where does hot begin? Like that. So, you know, we have called it hot and cold, but you know, in reality, it's a ever interflowing yin yang. Like it's just one in, you know, one inside of the other one.
That was perfect. Thank you, instructor.
Yep, thank you. All right, anybody else? Questions, comments, concerns, criticism?
Yes, sir. If it's open to instructors now, if not, I can wait.
Go ahead, yeah. Whoever want to go.
I'm gonna do my best to use the fewest amount of words possible. Number one, again, you continue to demonstrate the divinity in yourself. I'm so happy to call you my brother. Powerful class. Once again, providing utility for us in real time of the higher sciences. The information clearly points us to the fact that we find God, the divine, as we shed all of this clothing that is on us, from the physical through the information. And shedding that, we get back to the divine. That being said, it also clearly stated that, well, I better state it. The creator, that which created, organizes, continues to maintain this construct. It did not diminish that reality for those of us that seek to worship, you know, as was in the other class or previous class, that which, and I would do a bad job of attempting to quote it, but what it meant was that we serve ourselves better worshiping essentially something that we can see versus that which we cannot see. Again, weak word choice, but those that were in the class will know what I mean by that. So I say that in the sense that for those of us that do desire to worship, this class did not eliminate that possibility or that reality or that practice or that right and privilege to continue to worship that which is outside of self, yet being given more information to realize that the divine is within you. The last piece, the two more pieces. One, for those that are challenged or still chewing on the concept of Maya and illusion. Illusion for, you know, I won't say lack of better word, but how can I say? When we say that we are dealing with illusion versus reality, it's only to give you a handle on that, on the fact that the divine is all that's real, in quotation marks. But we need all of these constructs to give us the sensation or the scalability or connection to process based upon the limitations of the brain and the five senses. So for folks that are struggling with reality versus that which you feel, I hope that this helps to remedy that, meaning 90 degrees is different from 14 degrees. So that those bodily sensations that come with being in the summer, being closer to the sun versus being in the winter and being further away from the sun, that's real, because what is real is that which created and sustains that. And then the last piece is time. Time is necessary for us not only to manage, cope, and process with all that is found in this abundant universe, but it is a tool to give us the opportunity to grow or shed in order to get back to the truest self, the divine, and go back and be absorbed into the divine whole at the end of the transition or at the transition point. So our goal in being on planet Earth this time, as was the previous times, is to deal with karma, as instructor said, in hopes of proving that you find and connect to divinity in truth, in reality. And at that point in time, you don't have to come back here no more. I apologize for all the words, and I appreciate the time, instructor. And thank you for continuing to help me elevate and spiral upward, brother. I love you and I appreciate you.
Oh man, thank you. Love and appreciate you as well. And you definitely called out, you know, some very important points, as well as illustrated the point that I hope to make in these classes, is that they all build upon each other. Two, they all get us to the same precipice, and then none of them negate one another. So it's like, it's not that oh yeah, we got Jnana yoga, so we can forget about bhakti or karma. It's like, no, well, you know, all of them are just rafts, as we said earlier, to get to that unification, to get to yoga. And so this is just another path. So using another, you know, one uses love, one uses the body in action, and now this is using the mind, or what's called the buddhi, buddhi, like Buddha, but booty, or the intellect. So just another tool in our tool belt to realize the divine.
I say.
I say thank you. Anybody else?
I would have to say, instructor, that this too is my favorite one, because of my life's work. Ever since I guess I've come here in classrooms, teaching observations. This has just been what I've done. And then to reach a certain point, and some think that it's finished when it's just a mark of a new beginning, when it's actually never finished. There's always something to learn. There are always opportunities to grow. And the process of leaving the raft in order to cross another river of opportunity is, you know, just like the love of knowledge. So in your presentation, and you said this to me, you said, man, you, and I agree. This has helped me so much, more than you know. This has helped me in so many ways. So I thank you, brother. I love you. Thank you. Excellent job.
Love and thank you.
Yeah.
And you know, you're always my first teacher, so definitely can't negate that. Appreciate you. All right, anybody else? I see you, instructor said.
Yeah, I'm just I'm the same thing, blown away. It was exciting for me. I'll say that. So much so that at times I just wanted to get up and move around a little bit while I was on the presentation. One thing in particular that really stood out for me was the use of wisdom. And I think it went something like the omniscient wisdom of the soul, that spoke to experience. I'm not sure the word, right. They use experientiality, just in this process of learning where we are in this illusion, to remove the veil. I don't know. It was extremely powerful for me. Yes, using this construct as in the Matrix to get unplugged. So yeah, powerful, brother. I can't say enough about it.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, that's it. Like, I don't remember which exact slides, so I don't want to click through all of them. But basically, it was, you know, making the distinction that it's not just book knowledge, but again, the wisdom of using the book knowledge and putting it into practice to experience the divine, and that is what we call wisdom.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that was powerful.
Profound.
Instructor, I just want to say one piece, and I'm gonna get out of here because I gotta pack up. I got a 6 o'clock flight in the morning. Tonight is the lunar and super moon on the tonight and the 26th. And that's a I've been getting into learning about astrology, and if everybody on the call just look it up, you'll see that that's a very powerful pull, especially for Geminis and Tauruses or anybody in this month and in June. And it opens up a lot of little opportunities in your third eye to expose your superpower. And I mean, I want to be short with it, like, bro, you got a superpower that just pulls stuff out of people, man. You throw stuff at people that is unfathomable, and they be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I never thought that I would be at a level where I could listen to some of this stuff. Because at first, when you started talking, I was lost. And then I started doing my research, and then I started getting into the class and listening and taking my notes. And it seems like every other class is just get deeper and deeper. If this was a Tyson fight, it would have been over 8 seconds ago. So,
No,
just big ups,
that,
big bro.
man.
And I got to get out of here, man.
Yep,
I love you, all of
safe
y'all.
travel. Yep, we
Yes,
love
sir.
you too. Congratulations again, and again, do my best to. Basically, how I see it is, I do my best to create what's not yet created. So, like, we go to YouTube and all of us type in Jnana Yoga, and we all click on a different video and we all watch it. It's still not going to be as succinct and direct as this. And I know because I looked at all of them. Every video that's in English on Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, all of them that's in English. And I don't get what I get from the presentations that were created and presented here. So, I do my best to take all of that stuff and then put it in a way that's palatable and understandable to people who don't necessarily have the background of, being a Buddhist or studying Advaita Vedanta or anything like that. So, again, just making it relatable, palatable, and understandable. So thank you. Anybody else?
Peace and love, instructor.
Peace, peace.
Yes, sir. Phenomenal work, as always. What came to mind for me real quick, and I know we're gonna wrap it up, is there's a book called The Holographic Universe. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that read, but there's a story in there where a group was having a party and they had a stage hypnotist to entertain their guests. And the hypnotist had this gentleman sit there, hypnotize them, and basically told him, when you wake up, you'll no longer see your daughter. And when he reawakened, he couldn't see her. And to his subconscious mind, she basically firewalled his senses. And she was literally standing right in front of him. And then the hypnotist took his hand and placed it on the small of her back and basically said, now you can see a watch. And then asked him, could he read the inscription on the watch? And he read the inscription on the watch, but he was staring at her belly and just couldn't see her, which was pretty interesting. And that's what came to mind for me, is just basically, how do we, lift the veil, and everything that you talked about. It was just so impactful, man. And my brain is on the floor.
Yeah, I thought about you when I put this together. I'm like, hopefully everybody's brain on the floor. But
yeah.
So the first step to lifting the veil is realizing that there is a veil that's down, right? If we don't know that, you know, the door is over there, or if we never had the concept for a door, we would be, you know, looking to get out of rooms through the wall and through the ceiling and all of that because we don't know what a door is. So all that this presentation is saying is, hey, that's a door.
Yeah.
You might want to go through it like that. So, you know, again, excellent example. Thank you. Appreciate
Thank
you
you,
being
sir.
here.
Thank you, brother.
Yep. All right. Last call. Anybody else before we get out of here? All right. Well, we got the homework. So intentionally practice, and then we're going to report out.
I'm looking forward to going back over this.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna post it. I'll post it tomorrow. Unless y'all don't watch it tonight.
Well, maybe, just maybe. Yeah, for real.
Okay. Well, I'll
Thank
post it
you.
tonight. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your hard work.
Thank you.
Powerful work.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Peace and love, family.
Peace. All right, going once, going twice.
Peace and love, fam.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Peace, y'all.
Good night. Thank you.
Peace.